Welcome back to another edition of Everything Football 62. I'm your host, Jonathan Big Tex Johnson. Steel curtain of the 70s, Pittsburgh Steelers, known for the defense. You you also had the no-name defense. You had the Purple People Eaters. You had the I might as well say Doomsday defense with Dallas Cowboys and whatnot. You had some of the really good defenses of the Green Bay Packers of the 60s. You had the Chicago Bears, that 46 and what they did. You had the Baltimore Ravens and the defenses that they had and whatnot. You had some different Philadelphia Eagle teams that had great defenses and stuff like that. You had a couple of years, you had the Denver Broncos, had the whole Orange Crush, had them guys. You had all of that going on at a particular time. And those guys probably a lot of those guys who are still living and obviously if they follow the game and whatnot, look at some of the scores of these games. Of course, I just looked at the A&M game. I turned the damn game off, actually. It was like, dude threw the interception and whatnot. I didn't even pay attention that the kid had his knee down or whatever like that. I went to bed, interception, say, there go A&M again. I wake up this morning, crazy finish, 74, 72, whatever that ridiculous goal. Just absolute. And saying all that to say, because that's SEC, saying all that to say, that is LSU. LSU always has a good defense. No matter if the offense, which is because of not having no offense, is what's kind of pigeonholed them for the last couple of years. No quarterback. Not a lot of offense. And that just goes back to this. You go back to the game, the Rams and St. Louis. And the Rams have just to show you how this whole thing is going. Rams had Sue, who maybe put in another year or two or whatever like that, might end up being maybe a second or third ballot Hall of Fame. I mean, he's kind of slowed down some or whatever, and then always considered him dirty and stuff like that. Sue, perennial Pro Bowler, perennial All-Pro. Donald, best defensive player in the game in my book right now. You got I know he ain't there yet. Aqib Talib. You got the dude Peterson who just made it back, one of the better corners. You got guys that's kind of Pro Bowlish all around there, and some All Pros around there, and you see what happened there, right? It's like it's nothing that you can do. It's like the game when you look at it, and I said this, and you go back to some of the things that I sit up there and said earlier part of the year. And I'm talking about early part of 2018 when I sit up there and say that professional football is turning into college football. Point blank. You can, try to duck and dodge it and stuff like that. I told you, even you now have linebackers wearing number 40, wearing 40s numbers and stuff like that. Remember when Brian Boswell tried to bring 44 in the league back in the day, back in 87, back 31 years ago, they were like, oh, that's ridiculous. You can't do that, and this, that, and the other. Well, look at that. Option, RPO. Now, because that's what everything is with all this LOL stuff and all this stuff that you do online and stuff like that now. Run pass option. Well, there's always been a run pass option. It's just that it never worked in the pros because you couldn't run option in the pro. That was a gimmick. That was a high school, college thing. You can't do that in the pro because guys are too sound to do that. Well, guys in defense are not sound anymore. The defense is gone. There's no techniques. You can't intimidate nobody. You can't intimidate nobody. You can't really knock the shit out of nobody no more to make them think twice coming over the middle. You basically can't sneeze on the quarterback, right? Used to be, like I said, if the guy coming over the middle, you played in the secondary, you play linebacker, whatever like that, you come across the ball, as long as the ball hit his hands, the fingertips, you was able to knock his ass out before he got it because it's his job to try to catch the ball. Your job is to dislodge it. That's now considered defenseless, right? Sit back and see some plays yesterday. Dude lowered his head, running back lowered his head. Nothing was called. Nothing was called. But if the defensive player lower his head, that's what I'm saying. They have to clean this stuff up. And I talked about this before. But I'm saying all that to say, this is affecting the game that you're seeing today. It's like people in pro can't. What can you do? What can you really do? You know what I'm saying? You can't do anything. It's like you can't do nothing. It's like these guys are playing pitch and catch. You looked at some of them games with NFL, with the Rams. With the Rams and the Chiefs. Them guys was running wide open in the secondary. I'm like, how's that even happening? And this is and then the stuff that New Orleans is doing and stuff like that. I mean, Brees threw 4 touchdowns and only had 170 some yards right? Which kind of it was a real low input for him, but he, 4 touchdowns because that's what it's all about. It's all about scoring. But I'm just saying, it's just like it's wide open, and you can't do certain things. And I looking at these announcers. One of the guys was talking. I forget who it was, but they're just saying maybe it's like the offense is so far ahead, and the rules are going so much forward to the offense. It's like it might take the defense a couple of years to finally try to catch up on this. It's basically, in other words, like I said, like I was telling some guys the other day, I was like, it's all about who has the ball last. If Pat Mahomes didn't get greedy the other day, they would have beat them. He got a little greedy. Should have just checked what was in front of him. He had enough time and whatnot. But they figured he was going to try to go for it all, and then that's what ended up costing him again. Kid threw like 6 touchdowns. He had quite a few turnovers and stuff like that. But again, and like I said, this goes back to, and this is something that goes back to following Texas high school football and whatnot, and just seeing some of the scoring outputs and just different things that I've seen there. And it's probably all different high school, but I'm just saying because the Big 707 is big there and stuff like that. And I remember seeing the score of a team that's a real, they are East Texas team. Newton, we used to play them in high school every now and then and stuff like that. Sometimes, always kind of met them in the playoffs and whatnot. Every now and then, they was always good. They still good. They were one of the better programs in the state of Texas. Small school, whatever you want, however you want to. Their football team is always on. Always got tight defenses. Always nice athletes on offense, the whole 9 yards. But they played a game a few years ago. It might have been 2012, 2013, or something like that. And the scoring was ridiculous. And they scored like 84 points. But the other team scored like 45 points. 45 points, which, dude, if somebody scored like over 25 points on you, guys coming up or whatever like that, dude, that's like your defense ain't doing anything. But that's like, it's a norm now. It's like, that's a norm. I sit up there and watched yesterday, who was that? Ohio State. These are Big Ten, aside from SEC and Big Ten still have the architectural structure of how you basically play tough defense and whatnot, and a lot of running and whatnot, in some cases and everything. And dude, with that score end up being something like 62-35 or something ridiculous like that. And Ohio State put up 62, and Michigan had like the #1 ranked defense. It's like it's insane. It's just like, it's crazy. Scoring has went up in the NFL. I think they said like 10 points or something like that. I forget what, but I know they said it's up than what it was last year. To even imagine that. But that's where the game is at today. It's like all about who has the ball. And the only thing you can do as a defensive player, for the most part, as they say, is basically just be like, see, can we create some turnovers? So if you don't create no turnovers, you're going to get blown out, man. They're going to walk up and down the field on you. It's like, it's not even fair. It's like you don't have enough men to cover all this stuff. It's like, and I said this, and I saw it happening in 2007 when Moss went over to New England, and just how the offenses and stuff was clicking. And all of a sudden, Tom Brady's numbers went from being pedestrian, and it just shot up and just went there and been through the roof ever since. And that's what I'm talking about. Then you get a few years after that. That was back, I think, when Manny missed the whole year, when you had like about 3, almost 4, 5,000 yard passes. I mean, Matthew Stafford threw like 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. I don't even think he made the Pro Bowl. He may have, but I'm like, if he did, it was an alternate or whatever like that. But I'm just saying, all that to say, and then Eli Manning just missed it by about 20, 30, 40 yards or something like that. Almost 5,000 yards. Peyton sat out because that was the year that he missed the whole season. So, dude, that was like, I think 2011, if I'm not mistaken. So, dude, I mean, look at it like that, man. I'm like, it's completely out of, I'm like, it's like defense does no longer exist right now. It's not existent. It's non-existent. It's out on the field. I mean, you think about Philadelphia had one of the better defenses last year. They won the Super Bowl, but it was based upon a turnover that basically got them because they moved up, because as time went on, they still moved up and down on Philly. I mean, what them jokers? The Patriots still basically moved up and down on them. You saw what happened with Minnesota. They started getting carved. They got caught up by Drew Brees in the second half, and then they still ended up winning the game, the luckiness and all that. But then they got carved up against, they basically got carved up against Philly, right? This is what we're dealing with now. You know, that's just that's the state of the game. That's where it's at right now. And I don't particularly like it. The scoring is nice and stuff like that to see the little pinball wizardry stuff going on and all of that. But I'm like, for a fan like this to see balanced football and stuff like that and some good defense from time to time, that would be kind of nice. But it's just like, it's out of hand. And a lot of it's out of hand based upon you don't want things happening to these offensive players. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I get it. Yo, you don't want no 9-6 game or 7-10 game or whatever. Like, sometimes it got to be that way. Sometimes it's supposed to be that way. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's got to be that way. But that's not how they doing it. That's just knocking jokers out and everything. You can't do that no more. So you got to ease up, and you can't play, and you just let the guys run around wild. And that's kind of like where all this stuff is going at right now. And I don't really like it. I'm going to always still watch, but I'm like, that's just my little rant on it. Just like you see the scores, it's just ridiculous. And like I said, starting in college and coming over in the pro. So like, who knows how this thing is going to go? It's still, you know, you're relatively kind of same kind of scoring and stuff like that. But you having these games where these guys are it's just yards on top of yards on top of yards on top of yards. And a lot of them are junk yards, but it's like, it's so many yards. It's like, even if you're a mediocre quarterback, you can still rack up yards. When if you was a mediocre quarterback a few years ago, 10, 12 years ago, or whatever like that, a mediocre quarterback would still show up. It's like you get a game or two, and that's about it. Then he's going to basically be who he is. Even somebody like Fitzpatrick, and I mean, tons of guys can still put up all these damn yards and stuff like that because of the way the game is. Which is why then these guys get money, like I've pointed this out to you guys thousands of times, do all of this, and it gives the illusion that this guy is really doing all of this stuff, when in actuality, that person is benefiting from them softening up the NFL. And I get for the people keep talking about the stuff about the injuries. I get all that, but like that's the price of doing business. That's a part of the game. It's a part of the game. It's going to happen. So I ain't saying nothing. You have to be dirty, but you play the game hard. But that's what I'm talking about, and that's where it's at right now. That's where it's at. So you got these guys get these and it's not real. It's not real. It used to be a time if a joker threw 30 some odd touchdowns and 3,000, 4,000 yards. Okay, yeah, and they won games. You follow what I'm saying? Like everything is basically watered down now, and it kind of needs to stop. All right, guys, we check you later, man. Getting ready to start the day, getting ready to get everything popping off. You check me out on YouTube, subscribe, like button, and all that good stuff, and check me out over there Twitter. Subscribe to the page and everything like that. And we'll check you guys later. Y'all have a good Sunday. Enjoy your football.